We're at the midway point in our 2017 adventure in faith, your essential spark, igniting a yes-powered, soul-stirring vision. The core idea being there is a spark in every one of us. It is a spark of divine spirit. It is a spark of vibrant, creative life. In this spark is the sacred coding of your soul. It is the God seed within you. And to rediscover this spark, to rekindle it, is to align yourself with the higher vision that seeks to unfold in, through, and as you. In our first week, it was about a reunion experience in the heart with that spark. You know, we don't find the spark that grows into the flame of a vision through our intellect or by being obliged to the shoulds and oughts we've assumed for our lives. It's about listening to what the heart wants, what we truly value and what matters to us. And then last week, it was about transcendence, a spark in the dark, making sure that we always maintain our visionary capabilities even in the dark times of our personal experience or in our collective social experience. And we talked about when you're in the dark, you got to face it, embrace it, replace it, and grace it. And by the way, I just would say that if ever you want CDs of any of these messages, they're in the Works of Heart store for the donation of your choice, or they're online to be watched on our website. And we'll no doubt be doing a CD set of these. We thought we'd wait till the whole series was over, though, until we sold the set. But at any rate, all right. So our topic today is combustion, kindling a white-hot vision. The late, great Joseph Campbell said, "The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are." The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Now the question then is if we are honoring this greatest privilege authentically and fearlessly. Because really it's about exploring in the territory of the heart to see what we can bring forth, see that greater life, that greater yet to be, that we can see unfold in our lives. Howard Carter was an English archaeologist who discovered King Tut's tomb. Now, he had a vision for that. He was driven by this, and he got many, many backers to fund this effort. And so they went over to Egypt, and they dug, and they dug, and they dug, and they weren't finding anything. And one by one, all of these backers started falling away. In fact, his final backer said to him, "I'm pulling out of the project too, but I'll fund your efforts for the rest of this week." So they kept digging, and what a blessing. Near the end of the week, they discovered the doorway into that tomb. And it's written that Howard Carter looked through a small opening in that door. And then he sealed the entrance, and he rushed off to the village, to the telegrapher, to send a message to that final backer that he'd found the tomb. He had made the discovery. And once he had sent that message, the telegrapher said, "What did you see?" And it was like he was in a trance. And Carter said, "I see great and wonderful things I haven't even discovered yet." And that's what the spark will say to us. The spark in us reveals great and wonderful things we haven't even discovered yet. And yet we get to discover them and we get to reveal them when we commit ourselves to a vision-driven life. Not a necessity or an expedience-driven life, but a vision-driven life. Is that the kind of life you're living? Or is it just the old routines and the habits and shrouded over by just what has been and the choices made up to now? A vision-driven life. Now, inevitably, when we finally say, okay, I'm going for that, we have to do some self-assessment. You have to confront the ways we've been holding back in our lives. You have to confront our tentativeness and our vagueness in our lives. The ways we buy into limitations and excuses and harsh judgments on ourselves. The ways we agree with scarcity and struggle and obstacles, all the ways that we one way or another resign ourselves to leading a lesser life than the Spirit within us wants to source. We got to take a look at that. And inevitably, we ask some profound questions. Like, what if the better life I seek is really a bigger life? And what if so much of what I yearn for in my life is seated in a vision that's just waiting for my permission to grow and to flourish? And then we have those epiphany moments when we just say, what am I waiting for? This life is too short, it's precious, it's powerful. I'm here with something that wants to be in me. What am I waiting for? It's about getting back to that original promise of our being and opening to that, exploring the magic in that. I love what is written by Jack London. I would rather be ashes than dust. I would rather that my spark should burn out in a brilliant blaze than it should be stifled by dry rot. I would rather be a superb meteor, every atom of me in magnificent glow, than a sleepy and permanent planet. The proper function of a person is to live, not to exist. I shall use my time. What an incredible declaration of the mighty spark of spirit in every one of us. And as author Bryce Courtney wrote, before you die, you have to dare your genius to walk the wildest unknown way. The wildest unknown way. So imagine it. Imagine being impelled forward by a white, hot vision. Now, I'm not talking about lukewarm longings, which is what a whole lot of folks try to impel their lives with. I'm talking about a white, hot vision. I'm talking about a supercharged, soul-sourced, heart-stirring vision. It's like the spark is ablaze in you now. And what that really requires is what I call a radical availability. To be radically available to the divine spark that would have its way with us. If we get out of the way, if we do as Emerson said, to get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits and let it happen. Isaiah was perhaps one of the greatest prophets for the children of Israel. And early on, as he was getting the realization that that was his calling, that he was equipped to be a mouthpiece to the people, to the leaders, for spiritual wisdom, and even in the throes of the fears of not knowing whether he was enough for that and where it would take him and lead him and what he'd have to put up with or face, still he came to a moment of radical availability, and he just said to the divine, "Here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, send me." On a spark, a vision. Oh, it gets white hot when we're that available. When we say, "Here I am, divine design. Take me forward. Show me. I don't even know up here. Show me what can be." I want to pause here and bring a beautiful, beautiful soul to our platform here to have a little conversation with me. I love this man, have loved working with him these past almost 5 years. He has served as the executive director here at Mile High Church. I welcome up here Greg Moss.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, I follow Isaiah. That's kind of cool, huh?
You got a lot to live up to there, man.
Okay.
Greg has, as I have shared, been our executive director here, bringing wonderful leadership and the spark of great ideas. And I want to, first of all, thank you for that, Greg, because it's been a profound joy and privilege to work with you.
Well, it's been an honor. And I just have to say that it starts here. I think you would all agree with that. Yes. Absolutely. And I don't have to say that anymore, so it really does come from my heart. But more importantly, it comes from out here, from this community.
That's
it's just
right.
the most amazing community of congregants and practitioners and volunteers and staff, and of course the great ministerial team.
Yeah,
So it's been an
thank
honor.
you. Well, as you probably have assumed or sensed, if you haven't already heard of it, is that Greg is leaving us. And he's been given the opportunity to assume a very prestigious position. Why don't you tell these beautiful souls about that?
Yes, I'm the night manager of Denny's now. Actually, no, it's really, that was at one point, because I love their pancakes. I thought, man, that would be awesome. No, I have been given the opportunity to help lead the Metro North Chamber of Commerce as the president and CEO.
Wow.
So.
Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. That's incredible. I think they've got great taste in leaders, and I know you'll bless that rapidly growing community out there in great ways. And the good news is I know you're not departing, really. You're still going to be around, still serving on the various committees I'm putting you on.
As long as you'll have me here. I'll be here most Sundays as well, but I will still, as Monty Python said in the very famous movie, I'm not dead yet, and I'm not. And there's still lots to do as a community as we spark a great vision.
Yeah.
So are you all with us on that? Yes. So let's run together.
Greg, we're talking about vision, and your path is such an intriguing one. I know that
It's nuts.
it's not, which really means never underestimating the spirit.
That's right.
So,
Thank you for that.
What you've told me is you didn't really train for very much of, all our training grows us, but you didn't really specifically train for some of the things that life has brought to you, and yet it's this incredible arc of expression.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I first moved here in 1985 from New Orleans, I had the opportunity to work in the Payne administration. Now, what was he thinking? Had no business working in that area, no business moving up here for a southern boy who had never seen snow, and it was 18 degrees and 5 inches of snow when I arrived. And I thought, oh my gosh, I should just turn around and go home. And then moving into journalism, which I trained for in school, but I had never been on television, never had even thought in a million years that I would do that. And it happened by setting the intention and just being open to what was really in my heart and why I wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, and then you got frustrated and tired of the media industry, and it had going through rapid changes, as most everything in our society is. And we had a little lunch together, and boy, did that cause trouble.
Yeah, well, wow. Yeah, and you stiffed me with the bill. I'm still holding it. There's time.
That's
No,
right.
I'm just kidding. No, what's really interesting is 5 years before I left Nine, when I left Nine about 2 years ago officially, I had sat down with the management team there and said, listen, this is my last contract. In my heart and soul, I know where I need to be and what my vision is. And my vision has always been, at the core, been about community, connection, and collaboration.
Beautiful. Community, connection, and collaboration.
Yeah, and if it's not there for me, and I don't feel in alignment with that, I know it's time to spark something else. I never know what that is, but I am always open to that, and it's amazing.
And it brought you here, and you've brought such vitality, newness of ideas. You've taken us to another level, and we're going to continue to build on that, my beloved friend.
Well, it's an honor, and this is a journey that we walk together. I can't stress that enough. And what's unfolding now in this church community, and with each and every one of you, and with you, Dr. Roger, stepping in and leaning into some new things, it's amazing. So let's keep walking it together, shall we? Yeah. I love that.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay.
Let's show him how much we love and appreciate him. He'll be standing by Erica and me out there after we're done. Greg Moss. Thank you, Greg. Bless his heart. It's been a joy, and I look forward to continuing to kibitz with him and collaborate with him. And one thing I shared with the staff is there is no private good. And this is a good spiritual lesson. if this is good for Greg, and I know it is, then there's got to be good for us too. There's no private good. So we're open to our good, and we build upon all the momentum that is going so powerfully here. A white-hot vision then. You sensed it in Greg and how it's unfolded, though you never know always the points where you'll land and how that vision will articulate itself. And yet when it's powerful, when you love it, when you tend it, it's an amazing thing. So let's talk about the things you can do, starting now, to kindling a white-hot vision. It's becoming vision-struck, risk-ready, and zeal-powered. Yeah. You got to, first of all, be vision-struck. What this means is that your heart shows you something so beautiful that you fall in love with it. It's like you get captivated by something in you, whether you fully know how it'll unfold, which you seldom do, but you just get captivated what matters to you. You become vision struck. You fall in love with the rightness of it, the beauty of it, the blessing of it. And you got to give yourself to it. You know you're vision struck, just like when you first fell in love. You had to be there for that person. You had to walk that path. So when you're vision struck, you go for it even though you don't know the ways and the means. You don't know the action plans. The map hasn't been given you. And yet you've fallen in love with something that will not let you go. It is deep and it is within you. It may be very clear and specific. It may be something that would make headlines, or it may be your little niche where you love and make a difference. It may be that you want to be about love and peace and building a better world. It may be about taking care of the children or the elders on our planet or in our society. Maybe it's that you'll choose to sponsor and cultivate a community garden. Maybe you'll decide that you're going to show up as a grandparent, like a grandparent for a child who doesn't have one. Maybe you'll start doing environmental projects out of your love of the earth and gratitude for all it's given every one of us. Maybe it's some personal project of yours. It's your art, or that book you want to write, or that workshop you want to create, or that project you want to launch. Whatever it is, it's there. Let it captivate you. Be willing to fall in love with it, even in its unformed early state. I remember that happening to me as I got into this teaching as a teen, and it so supported me. It so made sense to me. It so aligned with my innate spiritual understanding. And then I grew with it, and I just was struck by what this teaching can be for the world. I was struck by a teaching that had the integrity to say, we're not for everybody, but we're for an increasing number of people who are looking for this way. To be struck by a teaching that says, at its deepest essence, all faiths have the divine at work. It's only when fundamentalists later on get a hold of it and distort it that it goes off track. But at the deepest of levels, all the faith paths are beautiful and precious and powerful. And to have a teaching that blends all that together. I'm struck still by a teaching that says to every soul who walks in here, as soon as you can, let go of the past, especially if it haunts you, and get in touch with the beautiful you, the powerful you, the wonderful you. I'm struck by a teaching that's happening over in our vote center when we tell the kids, you're already powerful. You're already beautiful. You don't need to mold yourself. You may learn and you may grow, but trust your inner life and learn to think for yourself. I'm struck by that. I'm still vision struck by a teaching capable of building bridges across the faiths and the various chasms we've needlessly created of separation in our world. I'm increasingly struck by the deepness and the richness of our teaching and its deep anchoring in prayer. I'm a little bit still passionate about this, gang. And that's what carries me forward. To be vision struck. It can happen. And it takes a life that has felt listless, and that spark animates it. I got a letter from a precious young lady in our congregation, one I've watched grow up by hanging around here a while, and that becomes a common experience. And she wrote me earlier this year, at the start of the year, Dear Dr. Roger, I'm writing to share some really exciting news. Back in December, you ended one of your powerful messages with the statement, You are not here to explain your life. You are here to exclaim your life. That phrase impacted me more than almost anything I've ever heard. Because after that service, I went to breakfast with my dad, and we talked about how unhappy I was at my job, and how your talk that Sunday had inspired me to finally do something about it. I was tired of staying in my comfort bubble, and I knew that it was time to follow my passion. That passion has evolved since college into a passion for health and wellness. So as she went to breakfast with her dad, she writes that he said that he'd heard about an event going on that was in the general area of her passion. And would she like to go to the event? He'd make it happen. And she did. And you know how things get woven together. At that event, she met somebody who told her about a fabulous program through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and how incredible it was. She was deeply guided to explore it more. She explored. The very next day, she enrolled in it. Then she let go of her job and started looking for another job to support her while she got her training. She found another job. It offered her $20,000 less than she was making and very few of the benefits she had currently enjoyed. But she was very clear because it was more aligned with health than the other. And she was clear that this was more in alignment with what she wanted to be and do. She was interviewed on a Friday, hired on a Monday, and she concludes her letter, I just kept that phrase in mind. I'm not here to explain my life, meaning justify it to all the naysayers, but to exclaim my life. I can't remember the last time I got so excited about a job. See, because it was supporting her on her path. I know that building my health coaching business will be hard work, but I know it's what I'm passionate about. And as long as I trust Spirit, the rest will follow. I cannot wait to change lives through health and wellness coaching. Vision struck. Be willing to be vision struck, and then you're going to find that you're going to get to be risk ready. This is ready to take the leaps that are always called for in any vision that matters. To leap out into the unknown, to be stretched, to be evolved in the process, and to definitely get out of our comfort zones. You'll find there are times as you leap into a new vision that you'll say, as Dorothy did in The Wizard of Oz, this isn't Kansas anymore. You know, it's not what I'm used to anymore. And yet I'm in progress. I'm going for it. Maya Angelou wrote about a beautiful lady, Annie Johnson. Ms. Annie Johnson, it was 1903 in Arkansas. Annie was an African-American lady. She'd been deserted by her husband. She had several children, and she had absolutely no way to support them. But she was reluctant to go into the domestic labor pool because she would hardly ever see her kids. It was so demanding. And so rather than just get swept into that, she paused, she imagined. And she let a vision come forth, a vision for two things. To be a successful entrepreneur and to be a great mom. She held that in her heart. And when you do that, ideas happen. She got an idea. She got an idea to sell some of her beef pies to the workers in 2 factories. And so she got her little oil stove and she walked a long, long ways at great risk because this is something nobody had ever done and she could be in peril's way, but she went anyway. And halfway in between those 2 factories, she set it all down, lit the oil stove, plopped her beef pies into the simmering oil and let them start to cook, and the fragrance wafted up in both directions. The noon bell rang, and the hungry workers came out, and her little first step of her business was a huge success. A couple of years later, she expanded it into a stall, selling some more supplies. Ultimately, it became a large and prosperous store right there. And she was able, of course, to nurture her children into their adulthood. What a beautiful thing. Annie said, I looked up the road I was going and back the way I came, and since I wasn't satisfied, I decided to step off the road and cut me a new path. How about that? You willing to step off the road? I mean, it may be a well-worn road. It may be almost a deep rut, but are you willing to step off that road and cut a new path? Being risk-ready, being struck by and impelled by a white-hot vision in your life. Here's a principle in this thing. If you follow Spirit without hesitation, the universe will rearrange itself to accommodate your picture of reality. strike up that vision, take a leap. And then finally, a white-hot vision is about being zeal-powered. I mean, we look out all around us for other sorts of power, sources of power to keep us sustained. And some of them are really wonderful, but there's nothing quite like the enthusiasm of your spirit, the zeal within you. That's what can get you up every day. And while you may be tending to other things, still your vision haunts you. Still you're struck by it. Still you find little things to do each and every day to forward that vision. Because the zeal would have it no other way. And if as you explore and you start moving to your vision, you fall down, the zeal says, get on up, dust yourself off, keep going. Because whoever who has had a great vision just went from point A to conclusion. Sometimes there were the challenges. Sometimes there were the setbacks. Sometimes there was the confusion and the fog. And yet, the zeal is what carries us always forward. One of my favorite affirmations was written by the co-founder with his wife Myrtle of the New Thought Unity movement, Charles Fillmore, in his 90s. In fact, I think he wrote this on his 90th birthday. He wrote, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and go forth with a mighty faith to do the things that I should be doing today. Isn't that beautiful? I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm. Together? I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and go forth with a mighty faith and go forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me today. To do the things that ought to be done by me today. To follow my vision. Stop. You guys will do anything that I say. I love the power. Zeal powered. Zeal powered. That's what keeps you going. Like Robert Livingston, the great missionary, he had such a vision for uplifting the people he was serving in Africa, helping with the diseases there and building up their society. He went to his home board to request funding for his vision. And as some boards sometimes will do, they just sat and listened and politely, and then they said, well, that's very wonderful, Robert, and you're to be commended for having such a vision. But of course, it's impossible. And with that, Livingston jumped up and he declared, impossible? Is that all? Then in God's name, let's do it. That's zeal. That's enthusiasm. I want you sizzling when you leave here this day with zeal, with enthusiasm, because that's what fans the flame of the spark and keeps it ignited and keeps it flowing. It's combustion time, gang. It's time not just to be wishing and wondering, but going to our hearts, because it says, write the vision, make it clear. Oh, this week, I invite you to let your heart write your journal. Not your head, not all the yeah buts, but what matters, what's sacred to you, no matter how it compares to anyone else. Get struck by it. Fall in love with it. Get ready to take risks on its behalf, and let your zeal carry you forward. Let's affirm that together. We're going to put it right up on the screen. Together, I am vision struck, risk ready, and zeal powered. And so it is.